I've finally seen the Mario movie here in Japan, where it released 1 month after the rest of the world. As I'm sure most of you have seen it or have already made up your mind not to see it, this is your spoiler warning. In this video, I'll give you my 5 gripes which left me disappointed with the Mario movie. Despite the title and idea of this video, I did enjoy the Mario movie quite a lot. The animation was mostly very good and very beautiful, and it is the best looking movie Illumination have ever made. The voice cast was fine, and I enjoyed all of the Easter eggs and references to games. Yet, compared to other recent game adaptations like Detective Pikachu or the Sonic movie, I walked out of the theater with a lot more gripes with the Mario movie than with those two. This movie could have been a real home run for Nintendo and Universal, but the following 5 points let it down significantly. Luigi's voice actor, Charlie Day, said the movie's biggest critic will be a 30-year-old man in a basement, so here I am. The Mario and Donkey Kong series have meant so much to me throughout my life, with Super Mario World on the SNES being one of the first games I ever played, and the Donkey Kong Country series being one of my favorite series of all time. In the words of Mario, let's-a go. Number 1. Cranky Kong. While all of the other characters in the movie were portrayed in such a way that approximated the best of their game versions, both design-wise and personality-wise, to a good enough degree, I have absolutely no idea what they were thinking with Cranky Kong. When the voice cast was revealed, we all had a good laugh at how stupid the casting of Chris Pratt as Mario or Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong was. And yet, in the movie, both of those portrayals were fine, and didn't ruin the characterization of iconic characters. Even Rogen's iconic laugh as Donkey Kong was fine, and I didn't hate it. When the brilliant Fred Armisen was announced as Cranky Kong, there was absolutely no reason for concern, like the previously mentioned Pratt and Rogen. Armisen is a fantastic and funny character actor, and he has excellent range, as demonstrated by his performances in shows such as Portlandia and Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, to name a few. And yet, I don't even know what his Cranky Kong voice was meant to be. Game Cranky is literally that. Old and cranky, yet still well-meaning, doing the best for his family, and even joining the fight as a playable character in Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. In the Mario movie, I have no idea what they were going for. His voice sounded more annoying than anything, not cantankerous and elderly like I would have expected. Movie Cranky really comes off as an unlikable asshole. I don't think this was a decision by Armisen himself, but rather how he was directed to voice this character. And speaking of direction, is this movie the first example of a Cranky Kong rebrand, as well as a change of direction for the Donkey Kong IP? Here, he's portrayed as the ruler of the Kongs, wearing an Aztec-inspired crown. He also looks younger than ever before, without wrinkles around his mouth. He's retconned into being Donkey Kong's father rather than grandfather, which is fine I guess. But why younger, less cranky, and ruler of the Kongs? Given that we know a Universal Studios theme park Donkey Kong attraction is on the way, looking much like the way the Jungle Kingdom was portrayed in this movie, we can only assume this is the direction the Donkey Kong IP will take, with synergy between movie, theme park, and game portrayals reflecting it. Whether or not a new Donkey Kong game is on the way remains to be seen, but we can assume that this is Cranky Kong going forward. As a lifelong Donkey Kong Country fan, who grew up playing those games on the SNES and Game Boy, I'm disappointed. While a DK rebrand might be on the horizon, and I'm still glad to see that the Kongs of the Rare era are here and celebrated, I did not see any reason for Nintendo and Universal to do Cranky dirty like this. Number 2. The dog. Early in the movie, there's a scene in which the Mario Bros go to fix a leaky tap in the home of a wealthy couple. They have a run-in with the couple's dog, who terrorizes them while trying to fix the bathroom. This scene stuck out like the sorest of thumbs in the movie. Why a dog? The Mario games have never really had dogs in them, certainly not antagonistic ones. It seems in this movie, Luigi suddenly has a fear of dogs? Something that's never been established in the game, as far as I know. I think a dog was chosen out of sheer laziness and cost-cutting. Illumination is known for doing movies on the cheap, recycling character models and copying and pasting them. Just look at Minions, for example. We see it in the Mario movie itself, with Toads and Koopas. Yet this dog's design looks completely incongruous from everything else in the movie, and this is because I believe it was copied and pasted from The Secret Life of Pets. Whether it's a background model in that movie or a model that was never used, I don't think this model was created specifically for the Mario movie. It was just an asset Illumination had lying around. This is clearly an Illumination dog, not a Nintendo dog. Nintendog? and its presence here is jarring. If this dog is indeed here out of sheer laziness, then that's just disappointing. Dogs have no connection to Mario. The dog scene is but one example of a problem I had with this movie, being number 3. The beginning and ending take place in the real world, specifically Brooklyn, New York. While that's a fine idea, with New York having been hinted at in other pieces of Mario media, the way it's used here is just plain weird. I thought the Brooklyn stuff was some of the more interesting stuff in the movie, but it doesn't work in the movie as a whole. First, why does Brooklyn start flooding? When that scene happened, it was logical to think that the cause of it is what leads Mario and Luigi to get isekai'd into the Mushroom Kingdom. And yet when they go down there, only to find a randomly placed warp pipe, seemingly unrelated to the flooding. The two events are unconnected. Why even have Brooklyn flood in the first place? I think it's because in the first draft of this movie, the two events were related, with the previously mentioned dog scene also having been rewritten to fit this. I wonder if instead of a dog, it was going to be a Koopa or something else, coming out of the toilet or whatever as their first encounter, showing that the boundary between the real world and the Mushroom Kingdom was weakening, and going into the sewer was originally supposed to be the brothers' investigation into what's going on. Other things in Brooklyn that bothered me was that Pauline has been retconned into the mayor of real-life New York City instead of New Donk City from Odyssey, and yet Odyssey itself is referenced in this movie with Peach, Mario, and Toad passing through the Sand Kingdom. And also Foreman Spike's appearance. His presence was announced in the previously mentioned Nintendo Direct, as well as the voice actor being credited as part of the main cast. Nintendo of Japan even put out a press release in advance of the Japanese release of the movie, announcing his cringeworthy Japanese name, which I will not state here, having been retconned into the English localized name Spike. Yet his role is so minor, more of a cameo than anything. Was Foreman Spike originally a larger part of the story in the same first draft? Given the absolute mess of a screenplay this movie has, we can only assume it was rewritten multiple times, with ideas being shuffled around for budgetary and deadline reasons. As a result, the Brooklyn portrayed in this movie feels so random and disconnected from everything else. The screenwriting on display here created the next issue I have. Number 4, pacing. The pace of this movie is absolutely insane. The editing was like that of a Gen Z TikTok. Every scene is just so rapid fire, bang bang bang, and then on to something else. Mario goes into the Mushroom Kingdom, meets Peach, no time for introductions, let's go get the Kong army. Who's Cranky Kong? Who cares, we're doing Mario Kart now. Now Mario's leading the nuke into Brooklyn. It moves so fast and takes almost no time developing relationships between characters. While the brothers' relationship is established pretty clearly and nicely at the beginning, and Mario gets a small amount of character development with Donkey Kong when they're both inside the eel, the movie neglects one of the Mario series' most important pairings, Mario and Peach. They take no time getting to know each other, apart from Mario's one attempt at flirting, which is undercut by Donkey Kong. Peach even says Mario is not important when setting off to find the Kongs, despite letting him tag along for no reason. It seems the only reason Peach has for trusting him is because he is another human, with Peach herself being the only human in this world. Anytime it seems like a conversation between the two might happen, the movie has already moved on to something else. Look, I'm sure a lot of you are thinking that this is just a movie for kids, or a 90-minute game commercial, but those aren't excuses. Movies like Toy Story, Finding Nemo, or Illumination's own Despicable Me are also for kids, yet they're all paced well and take enough time to establish and develop their characters. The also Chris Pratt starring Lego movie could also be considered a 90-minute toy commercial filled with references, yet it has more heart than the Mario movie. While I was still entertained, and no doubt kids were entertained, story-wise it could have been better and more coherent. And speaking of incoherency, number 5, music. Brian Tyler's soundtrack is straight fire, incorporating musical cues from the Mario series' near 40-year history, punched up with an orchestra. The music composed for this movie slaps hard, and I find myself listening to it on my commute. I didn't even mind Jack Black's Peaches song, as silly as it was. And yet the outstanding incidental music is undercut by a baffling decision to include licensed music. In the first 10 minutes we hear that cue from Kill Bill that's been overdone by this point, as well as the Beastie Boys' No Sleep Till Brooklyn. While it was awesome to hear music from Mario Kart 8, the warm glow that it brings is snuffed out by AC/DC's Thunderstruck. Tonally inconsistent and certainly doesn't scream Mario, but by far the biggest offender is Take On Me by a-ha, which plays once Mario and Peach make it to the Jungle Kingdom. Upon listening to the soundtrack on Apple Music, I discovered an unsettling truth. An awesome straight-fire Donkey Kong Country medley was composed and recorded. The track is called Driving Me Bananas, and what really drives me bananas is that this awesome track was cut from the final version of the movie and replaced with Take On Me. Whichever Universal suit made that decision belongs in prison, and if they don't like that, they can take on me in a fight to the death. Look, music is such an important part of Mario and Donkey Kong, and while most of the music in the movie is awesome, the inclusion of immersion-breaking licensed music is just insulting to fans when it's chosen over these franchises' awesome musical legacy. Other game adaptations have struggled to incorporate music as well, and the Mario movie came so close to pulling it off, but what I assume is contractual obligations got in the way. Perhaps Universal has some clause where music from their library must be included in their movies for royalty or copyright reasons. Whatever the reasons are, being forced to hear Holding Out for a Hero again instead of scene-matching Mario music is just inexcusable. So, despite all my ranting, I still did enjoy the Mario movie for the most part, but these gripes prevented it from being a home run. My expectations for a Mario movie were much higher than most people's, as the Mario movie means a lot to me personally, and I am a petulant consumer, but I feel that the fault is not entirely my high expectations, but rather decisions made by the various stakeholders of this movie production. I didn't leave Sonic or Detective Pikachu with half as many gripes as I did the Mario movie, so halfway decent storytelling in game adaptations is possible. Considering how successful the Mario movie has been, just having reached $1 billion at the box office, we can be guaranteed more are on the way, and hopefully the sequels improve upon what's been established here and fix the issues I spoke about. Despite all these gripes, it's still a good movie and the future of game adaptations is looking bright. Anyway, rant over. If you agreed with me, please leave a comment. And more importantly, if you disagreed, leave a comment telling me why so I can defend my honor. So thanks for listening to me rant, have a good one, and I'll see you next time.